a game where you gather and trade resources, all while avoiding the wrath of the robber. This is Catan, and your goal is to become the ultimate settler of Catan. In today's video, we're going to go through top strategies for winning Catan, including pros and cons of those strategies, as well as when to implement those strategies. Okay, now that everything is set up, let's go ahead and get started with the first strategy, and that is going for the longest road. So one of the most popular strategies, and probably the easiest to implement for beginners, is the longest road. Ideally, you just place your houses, your first settlements, so far away that it takes a really long road to get to them, and thus you get these extra bonus points of 2 victory points. Now, you're not going to get the win just with the longest road, so you can pair this with additional houses as you're playing, and you'll also want to eventually add a city as well. So this is really just for those extra 2 bonus points. The great thing about it is, to build a road, all you need is a wood and brick, so it's really easy resources to come by, and especially depending on what kind of board you are playing with and the resources that are rolled a lot, you may get really lucky in being able to do a long road with just a wood and brick. You don't even need to build houses at first while you're going at this. Not till later, when you have the longest road, you can start focusing on those houses to build up your points even more. In addition, the really nice thing about this is if someone blocks you and cuts you off from being able to continue your road, it's pretty easy to pivot. So you were going this way, well, you can start building this way. And it doesn't really matter because they blocked you off over here. Even if they blocked you again, so you can't go any more that way, you can still build out your road a different way. So just keep that in mind, that there are lots of alternatives to pivot as needed. The next strategy is my favorite strategy that I've used probably the most, and that is focusing on development cards. So you place your resources where you're going to get those development cards, and all you need is wheat, ore, and sheep. So from there, you just keep on gathering those resources, and you gather development cards. As part of this strategy, you're also going to be getting a lot of knights, so you can get the biggest army. And I'll just put it there. And knights. So now you have the largest army, which gives you 2. In addition, there are cards in here where you can get victory points. So you can get luck out by having additional points just by drawing cards of here. But also look at these other cards that I've got. Year of Plenty, take any 2 resources from the bank. Like, these cards are really valuable in the deck, so I'd recommend doing this strategy. To pair this though, you can't just do the largest army and victory points. You'll also need to be upgrading your resources to cities, and most people who do the development card strategy also looks at developing cities, because you already have a lot of ore and wheat coming in, because that's what you were focusing on for development cards. So this is a good complementary strategy, is to build up settlements that you have to be cities. The con of this though is you may be competing with other people for these resources or for the largest army, and that just creates that competitive edge. It's the same con for the largest road. In addition, it's dependent on you having the right resources. If you have a lot of brick and wood, but you're not getting the development cards, the sheep, ore, and wheat, then this strategy is probably not the best for you to do. It is ideal to think about this strategy before you lay your first placement, because you're going to want to be in an ideal location where you can get the resources you need for the strategy. But if you need to pivot, you'll need to be able to build your way to a place that helps you pivot your strategy to a different one that may be more related to wood and brick, since that's what you're getting on your turn. Another thing to consider before doing this strategy is what numbers are on the ore, wheat, and sheep. For example, right here, we've got a 5, 6, and 10. These are all great numbers to have on it, but let's say this wasn't here and we had a 2 and a 9. Like, this 2 is just really going to be hard to get for ore, and ore is essential for that play. So say this was taken by orange, this location, by the time it's your turn to choose, hopefully you have some sort of ore resource available, or you can place it on a different part, but just make sure that you have good numbers, that these are related to the resources you need. And that's the same, I should have said the same for the longest road. It's really the same for all of these strategies. Make sure that you can get the resources before you commit to the strategy. The next strategy is something that I have tried so many times and I haven't been successful, or at least I've successfully done what I'm supposed to do, but not fast enough to win the game. And that is to focus on developing cities. So before you build a road, you turn your first settlement into a city. And you can do that by trading like crazy for whatever. So if you need 2 wheat, be open to trading for wood. Now the trick with this strategy is you don't want other people to be building cities, so you really need to monopolize on the ore. And this was something that I had a hard time with, because I would be like, no, I can't trade you ore, even though I had 4 in my hand, and I ended up trading 4 ore for the same resource that they were going to trade for 1 ore. But if I had traded it to them, they would more easily be able to make the city. Instead, because I was holding on to it and hoarding it, the opponents, they had in multiple games had to make their ways to ports so that they could do 3 of a kind, and they worked around it anyway. But you can't just do cities. So once you build a city, build a road, build a settlement, upgrade that to a city, and then build a road, build a settlement, upgrade that to a city. Now you have all your cities built, 2, 4, 6, 8 points. And so you need something else at the same time. You could do 2 more houses, but that would require a lot of resources. So what most people who are focusing on the cities strategy is they also do development cards for the largest army. Those extra 2 points, they already have wheat and ore for things. So being able to gather sheep might be a little bit difficult, but it's definitely one of the easier ways to get 2 points if you already have a plethora of ore and wheat. The pros of this strategy is it's kind of fun to trade off ridiculous trades for what you need, but honestly it depends on who you're playing with. So a con is if you can't get the resources you need, then you're completely dependent on someone to trade for you, or for you to get to a port that you can use, and that can be a difficult strategy to win. Also, another con is I've played this strategy like 5 times and I have yet to win with it, which is I don't understand, because everyone online is going, I love this strategy, it's what I do, it works every time. When should you use this? Same thing with road and development cards. Look at the resources that you have available to you. Where can you place your settlements, and does that complement your strategy for building cities? And does that complement your strategy for later doing the largest army or something like that? Okay, the next strategy is the first strategy that I used when I decided I looked up strategies a couple of years ago. I really kept on losing to this specific person, and so I was like, okay, I'm gonna do a strategy and I'm gonna beat everyone. And this strategy is to monopolize wheat, which I thought, okay, monopolizing wheat, all you have to do is get on good wheat spaces. And what happens with monopolizing wheat is you have a plethora of resources that are all wheat. And if you can get on a 3-for-1 port or depending on how the board is laid out, you might be able to get on that wheat port. It really depends on how the pieces lie. But at this perspective, you're the only one with wheat if you're monopolizing it. And so this person has it on a 3, but they need it all the time, and you happen to have it on a 10 and an 8. So you have multiple locations, multiple pieces on wheat. So you're getting a ton of wheat. You can trade 4 for 1 if you want. You can trade with other players. But if you trade with other players, they can then use wheat, which kind of counters the strategy. So the best way to do this strategy is if you keep all the wheat for yourself, monopolizing, and you trade in 4 for a kind, or get to a port for a 3 for a kind so that you can take advantage of that. But don't give people wheat. You want them to really struggle. This will make it easier for you to upgrade to cities, because you need a lot of wheat for cities. And also, this will make it so that other players won't be able to upgrade to cities. Blue, in this case, might get lucky by getting a 3 every once in a while, but for the most part, they'll probably have to do a port for a 3 for 1, or they'll have to trade in 4 of their resources for 1 wheat. So it really can give you an advantage in the game. With that being said, a con is completely dependent on how the board is laid out. So look at that. If you are on a great number 8, for example, but for some reason no one's rolling 8s and they're all 9s, this will be a struggle for you to keep up with this strategy. So when should you use this strategy? This is going to sound like a broken record, but it's when you have the resources. If you have the resources and the variation in numbers so that you can have the resources you need on almost every single roll, then it's a great strategy. But it takes a lot more resources and more turns and more rolls to win with this strategy compared to any of the other strategies that I mentioned. So consider that. How many turns do I want to win as quickly as possible, or do I want to try and monopolize wheat? Which it can be difficult to monopolize wheat. You might have to block people so that they don't place their houses on wheat and ruin your entire plan. So strategy summary, we've got longest road paired with building up multiple settlements as well as cities if you can. And then we've got the development cards, where you use development cards to get the largest army, as well as hopefully some victory points, and then building up to be cities. Then we have the focus on just building a city, and then you can build a road and settlement, and then you can build a city, but build cities first. And while you're doing this, if you have the opportunity, get some development cards so you can pair that with the largest army strategy. Monopolizing wheat strategy, which is a really difficult strategy to pull off, but honestly, it can be pretty fun, especially when people, all they want is wheat, and they're like, I'll trade you 3 resources for 1 wheat, and you're looking at your hand and you have 6 wheat, and you go, no. So, I mean, it depends on what kind of player you are, but definitely it's a fun strategy as well. Hopefully you enjoyed this video and it's going to help you win your next Catan game. If it does, I want to know what you did below, and tell me how you feel about it and what you recommend if you have other strategies that you recommend. And if you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. Thank you so much for watching, and enjoy playing Catan.